before Barack Obama emerged with a message. What do we do in the meantime? We looked inside. Donors got reorganized in the Democracy Alliance in 2005. Bloggers got reorganized in Huffington Post in 2005. Black voters got organized under Color of Change in 2005. And there was a deep internal reflection. I do not see that happening. I see people, rather than reorganizing, rethinking. Center for American Progress took off in 2005 and came up with a new set of ideas for Democrats. That has to happen. Before we get out here and start trying to tell people why they should like us, we need to look in the mirror, reorganize ourselves, get bad people and bad ideas out of the way, and then we'll be able to come forward in the midterm. But right now, we need to apologize to the American people that we were part of something that wasn't on the up and up.
As I've been saying for quite some time, when you lose CNN, and especially Van Jones, you're in deep, deep trouble. As the Democrat Party that I once used to be a proud member of is in right now. It is sinking drastically. They are doubling down on stupid. There is no helping them. It's only going to get worse, and that is a good thing. The hate that they have for the current administration and the cover-up that they've done for the Biden administration, for the mental health of Joe Biden, and of course now, which we will talk about shortly, it's cancer diagnosis. But first, you got many places you can be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. I thank you very, very much. I am fresh back from the Gulf of America, and I want you to know, if you haven't seen the video, which I put out a couple of them on my YouTube channel and my Rumble channel, the Gulf of America is a very, very beautiful. In fact, it looks better now than it ever did when it was called the Gulf of Mexico. We had a great time down in Florida, had lots of fun in the Bay, went out in the Gulf, went down south of Pensacola, in fact, right off of Pensacola Beach, and saw some dolphins, which was pretty cool. My son got to see that, and he really, really enjoyed seeing the dolphins. And just had an overall wonderful time, ate some great seafood. If you ever get a chance to get down to Pensacola, Florida, if you've never been down there, please do it. It is just a wonderful place. It is a great conservative and Republican place to be. You've got Naval Air Station Pensacola there. In fact, that entire Gulf Coast area right there, even from Mississippi going all the way to Panama City, Florida, you've got Keesler Air Force Base, you've got Pensacola Naval Air Station, you got Naval Air Station, Panama City, you've got Herbert Airfield up there in that area as well. It is just absolutely stunning, the support that they have for veterans and for Americans, American patriots. And they don't take any nonsense down there. That's why you never, ever hear about the far left doing any kind of stupid shit down in Florida, much less any southern state for that matter. Okay. Every year, every single year, the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States get a complete physical from head to toe. That is just guaranteed. It's going to happen. It's written in stone. That's the way they do it. Period. No matter what anybody tells you, that is what takes place. And it is not performed by just any doctor. There are doctors and medical teams that are assigned to the White House that are the best of the best. Most of them are military doctors and medical staff from the numerous military facilities around there. And there are folks that have been in this business for a very, very long time. And they don't just pick random doctors to go treat the president and vice president of the United States. No, they have the best of the best. So for 4 years of the Biden administration, we know that they lied to us about Joe Biden's mental health. We watched it unfold in front of our own television sets, all across social media. We knew at a minimum, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, a minimum, the last 3 years of that administration, we saw a president that was not mentally there. I mean, that's just facts. We watched him unravel in front of us. And now, of course, we also know that not only did they cover that up, and as Van Jones was just talking about, they covered up his entire mental health. And they tried to say that he was totally fine and there was nothing wrong with the man, when they knew that he wasn't capable of being the president of the United States. He was mentally unfit. They covered it up. So when CNN and MSNBC is talking about it right now, so is ABC and CBS and NBC. You know, of course, Fox is talking about it. But all of the news media is now covering the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental capacity. What do we add to that? Prostate cancer. Now today, we find out that, well, let's be honest, they lied to us. Not only did they cover up for his mental health, but they obviously covered up for prostate cancer too. And then when they're called out on it, that there is no way that an aggressive prostate cancer, which is classified by a Gleason score of 9 and grade group 5, that's metastasized to the bone, just happened overnight. After all, it takes approximately 10 years, according to the American Health Association, according to the American Cancer Association, for prostate cancer to go from stage 1 to stage 4, which is where Joe Biden's at right now, supposedly. And prostate cancer tends to progress slowly. So after being called out on it, what do? They come out today and claim that Joe Biden's last prostate exam was in 2014, 11 years ago. They actually believe that you are too stupid to see the truth. Look, I didn't have anything personally against Joe Biden. I had a lot of shit against his administration. But Joe Biden, I knew, let me back up a second. Let's talk about prior to the last, when Joe Biden and Trump ran against each other and Biden ended up winning, whether you want to call it stealing the election or whatever. That's another topic. But I thought to myself, and I mentioned it on my podcast, that if we're going to lose to somebody, when the Democrats had their group of people going up and having their debates on who they're going to select to be the president, if elected, to go up against Donald Trump, I came out and I said, let it be Joe Biden. And I only said that because out of all the other candidates, he was the only one that had any experience with dealing with world leaders and understanding how shit works. Okay, now I didn't know at the time about the corruption with China or Ukraine and the business dealings with his son and all that shit. All right, all I knew was that, look, if we lose, let it be somebody that's going to be able to at least take care of this country. And little did I know that he was mentally unfit. And to be honest, we didn't really realize that until we got knee deep into the first year. And then we came to the conclusion that there's some weird shit happening. He's saying things in press conferences that just don't make any sense. He can't start a story and finish with the same story. Or he tells a story that's an absolute lie and was called out on it. And of course, what's the left and the regular Democrats say? Oh, we're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Bunch of conspiracy theorists that were 100% correct, as we found out over the past several years. To say that Joe Biden's last prostate exam was in 2014, 11 years ago, is just a freaking insult. The American Cancer Society recommends that every male over the age of 55 get a prostate exam every 2 years. And I assure you, as a former government worker myself, that we, at least in my position as an aviator in the United States Army, every year, regardless of your age, you got the finger when you got your flight physical. And that includes, I don't know about like infantry guys or guys that drive tanks or anything like that, cannon cockers, cooks, truck drivers. I don't know about if they get it. All I know is I can tell you what aviators got. And I know that the higher ups get it as well. And we know it's factual information. The president and the vice president not only get a physical from head to toe every year, but they also get the best of the best in doctors. Although every person responds different to cancer growth, and that is true, it's almost certain that Joe Biden was diagnosed with prostate cancer at least several years ago, and it was kept a secret from the American people. The administration that ran on transparency was just the opposite on damn near everything. It was all cover up. Don't allow the people to see what's really going on. Now, you know who knew exactly what was going on? Besides the pundits at CNN that covered for him that are now being exposed and now coming out and saying, why did we do this? Like Van Jones. Talk about a staunch Democrat. Van Jones can't stand Donald Trump. Van Jones would not spit in a Republican's mouth if they were dying of thirst. And when Van Jones comes out on CNN and David Axelrod sitting there too, another staunch Democrat, in front of Jake Tapper and says, the Democrats owe the American people an apology for the not being transparent and for covering up for 4 years of Joe Biden's decline. What does that tell you, liberals and Democrats? If that doesn't wake you up to the factual information that this was all smoke and mirrors, well, then maybe you're smoking Hunter Biden crack and should go check yourself into a facility to get help. I wish cancer on no one. Well, let me take that back. I'm sorry. There are some people out there that I wouldn't spit in their mouth as well if they were dying of thirst. A couple of them are watching tonight's podcast. Actually, more than a couple. But look, Joe Biden spent 4 years as president of the United States, and probably at least the last 2 didn't know he was president of the United States. He wasn't running our country. What I want to know, and I know that most American patriots want to know, is who was actually running our country? Who was it that we, the people, had operating this country and making all these really fucked up decisions, like allowing men and women's sports? Just a small example. And now we're finding out about the auto pen, where Joe Biden wasn't even signing shit. Somebody else was doing that. And I hope they get to the bottom of that and we find out who that person was. We deserve to know who was running this nation. And I hope we find out. Excuse me a second. Jimmy, is there a problem? I'm sorry. My Chinese cousin decided to act like a pig over here and start doing some snorting issues. I'm not sure what that's all about, but my apologies. Okay, let's move on. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. This guy, boy, I tell you what. Chuck Schumer suggested that the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, may be at least partially responsible for a Mexican Navy ship crashing into the Brooklyn Bridge on Saturday night. Did you all see the video of that? It's all over social media. It's on YouTube. It's on Rumble. It's on X. It's on Facebook. It's everywhere. Of this old Spanish ship, you know, the Christopher Columbus type ships that the Mexican Navy has, and we have several of them as well. So do other countries that still exist, and they've refurbished them and they've added motors to them so they can navigate into rivers like what this one was doing. It's on a tour of the world right now. It's supposed to go to a whole bunch of different countries. So that's what this story's about. So the video is horrific. And if you want to see people get killed, well, the video's out there. Schumer made the claim in a press release that happened on Sunday, saying he had been briefed on the details of the deadly crash, which left 2 people dead and over a dozen more injured. Schumer said that a U.S. Coast Guard system may have been operating at partial capacity due to DOGE hiring freezes at the Department of Homeland Security. But the Coast Guard itself, after hearing what Schumer said, came out and said, that's bullshit. That the system was fully functional before, during, and after the accident. Schumer said, we know that the Trump administration has been meddling in U.S. Coast Guard operations, from staffing to command and commos, and I have the general sense of a DOGE dysfunction in parts of the Coast Guard, to put it mildly. After being fully briefed on last night's Brooklyn Bridge accident, one thing is very clear. There are many more questions than answers as to how the accident occurred and whether it could have been prevented, Schumer said. Schumer went on to point out that DOGE implemented a hiring freeze of the U.S. Coast Guard, arguing that it could have impeded the Coast Guard's vehicle traffic system, known as the VTS, which works in similar fashion to the air traffic control system, except for boats. there are indications that this service called the VTS may not have been fully or accurately functioning in light of the hiring freeze by Doge and Donald Trump. We know the answer to that question. We need answers. If this were the case, the Brooklyn Bridge accident could be the national hairbringer demanding immediate action, Schumer said. I'm not sure what a hairbringer is, but I'm sure he doesn't either. Somebody just put that in his talking points. The current hiring freeze of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, which the Coast Guard is part of, may have limited the ability of the Coast Guard to fully staff up the VTS, the Vehicle Traffic Service. The shore-wide system that provides air traffic, the same thing as air traffic control, except for the seas, shipping, especially in congested areas and restricted waters like the New York Harbor, he added. The Coast Guard rejected Schumer's claim in its own statement immediately. Furthermore, there are no other ships involved in Saturday's crash that would have involved the VTS. The Coast Guard said that VTS was fully functional during the incident and operating in accordance with established procedures to manage commercial traffic and facilitate safe navigation. Our response included launching a crew from Station New York, establishing a temporary safety zone, and coordinating with New York PD, New York Fire Department, and New York City DOT. The National Transportation Safety Board is also on the scene investigating. Then, against Schumer's wishes, Democrat New York City Mayor Eric Adams came out and said that the Mexican ship actually lost power in its engines. Yes, it's a sailing ship from back in the Spanish sailing days, but modernized so it can go into rivers with actual propulsion engines. He said that the ship lost power and crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge. At this time, of the 277 on board, 19 sustained injuries, 2 of which remain in critical condition, and 2 more has sadly passed away from their injuries. Mayor Adams wrote on X, formerly Twitter. So clearly, we know what happened. Chucky Boy knows what happened. The ship lost power, started drifting with the river currents. We see it on the video, a bunch of videos that are all over social media from people on the shore that were there to see this gigantic sailing ship. It spun around backwards because it had no control of its engines and struck the damn bridge. Yet this piece of shit blames Donald J. Trump and Doge. This reminds me, to be honest with you, of past Democrat rush to judgment on things like, well, let's see, the Alton Sterling police shooting. Remember the hands up, don't shoot? That wasn't true. They blamed the cop immediately. Alton Sterling was black and the cop was white. They ruined that cop's life. Put him in hiding because black people wanted to lynch him. And all the black caucus up in Washington, D.C., and the Democrat Congress members and senators all came out blaming the cop before any investigation was done. And then Obama, the first black president, as I like to say, who had the first black Department of Justice head, Eric Holder, did their own investigation. Federal government investigation run by black people and city investigation, state investigation. And guess what? They all came back with the same conclusion, that everything you were originally told was not true. After the witnesses were interviewed and camera footage from local businesses and the police camera footage was all shown, Alton Sterling was a fucking thug that was high on drugs that attacked the cop and tried to kill him and was way bigger in height and weight than the police officer was, and then tried to get his gun from him. And then the narrative was Alton Sterling put his hands up and said, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." And the cop, as Alton Sterling turned around, shot him in cold blood in the back and emptied a clip into his back. None of that was true. It was all a lie. And to this day, the Black Caucus up in Washington, D.C. is yet to come out and say, "We were sorry, we got it wrong, and we lied." In fact, they still, when they talk about Alton Sterling, still push that narrative that this cop killed this black innocent kid in cold blood. Absolute bullshit. That's what the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. did and started when it comes to that kind of crap. Or the Trayvon Martin shooting. Remember that? Blaming the victim who shot him after being attacked by him. Even claiming that he was white. The victim was a guy by the name of George Zimmerman. And yes, as it turns out, George Zimmerman was an asshole. But that has nothing to do with this shooting that took place. We know from the investigation, again, investigation done by the Obama administration, the first black president, Eric Holder, the black DOJ head, that this kid, Trayvon Martin, was high on drugs, and for no reason other than he was being watched and followed while George Zimmerman's on a cell phone talking to 911 dispatcher, because he was in charge of, he was the head of their home security watch, neighborhood watch program. This guy attacked George Zimmerman, knocked him to the ground, got on top of him, and started just wailing the shit out of him. George Zimmerman had a gun on him, a Caltech 9mm, pulled it out and shot and killed this motherfucker. And what did the Democrats come out and do? The ones up in Washington, D.C. in the Congress? They blamed the white boy, which wasn't white. George Zimmerman was Hispanic. He was Hispanic American. His family was from south of the border. And they blamed him for killing this young kid in cold blood and made such a fucking mockery out of our system. And all the investigations showed just fucking complete opposite. Or the police shooting that took place in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where two officers were rolling around on the ground trying to get a guy in handcuffs that has already pulled a gun on a store clerk and other people in a parking lot that happened to be black and way bigger than the two officers that responded, and is resisting arrest and fighting them. They tase him. It's all on video. They tase him and it doesn't affect him. And he's kicking their ass. But the two managed to finally get him on the ground and are trying to get him in handcuffs when one realizes one hand he's reaching in his pocket trying to pull something out. And then they realize as he pulls it out, it's a gun. So they immediately yelled, "Gun!" and backed up and shot and killed him. And what's the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. do? Come out and blame the Baton Rouge police officers for killing this poor, innocent black guy. to this day, they still push that fucking false narrative. All these cases, the Democrat members of Congress blasted and blamed the police, blasted and blamed white people. And at the time, you may recall, Alejandro Omar had just become a congresswoman. You know, that piece of shit from Somalia who claims that the biggest threat to America isn't terrorism, isn't people coming across our southern border that are gang members, it's white men in America. They lied their ass off, and they just made shit up, as they continue to do on a daily basis, which is one of just many reasons why I left that party. And so many other people are leaving the Democrat Party, rather than becoming an independent or becoming a Republican or just going, fuck it, I'm not going to be a part of this crazy shit anymore, because it's insane what they're saying up in Washington, D.C. Now, the average Democrat voter out there isn't in line with what's happening up in Washington, D.C. with those Democrats. No, they're not batshit crazy, just coming up with this nut job shit that just doesn't exist. No, not in the least. Actually, the average Democrat out there today is in line with most of the things that conservatives and Republicans are. They want a secure border. They want police to be fully funded. They want to see men out of women's sports. They want to see these illegal alien gang members and those that have committed crimes in America deported. And they want to see a strong military. But you wouldn't know that if you listened to the left, would you? Acting U.S. Attorney from the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, is charging Congresswoman LaMonica McLever for her alleged misconduct towards law enforcement in front of Delaney Hall in New Jersey earlier this month. Representative LaMonica McLever assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code Section 111A1, that conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement officer in the state of New Jersey. And it is my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties. Congresswoman McLever responded to the charge in a statement that was shared all over social media. Earlier this month, I joined my colleagues to inspect the treatment of ICE detainees at Delaney Hall in my district. We were fulfilling our lawful oversight responsibilities, as members of Congress have done many times before. And our visit should have been peaceful and short. Instead, ICE agents created an unnecessary and unsafe confrontation when they chose to arrest the mayor, Baraka. The charges against me are purely political. They mischaracterized and distorted my actions and are meant to criminalize and deter legislative oversight, she added. This administration will never stop me from working for the people in our district and standing up for what is right. I'm thankful for the outpouring of support I have received, and I look forward to the truth being laid out clearly in court. First, ma'am, there is a process in place that you know, 100% know, for members of Congress to enter into and conduct oversight of any government facility in America. You know madam, that you simply make a phone call and introduce yourself as a member of Congress and tell them what you want to do and set up an appointment, and they openly invite you to come there and do your oversight duties. But that isn't what you did, is it? You don't just show up whenever you please. And in this case, a protest against the Trump administration for deporting violent illegal aliens accused of rape, assault, and murder of women and children and everyday American citizens, and start demanding they allow you in because you're a member of Congress. And we all have watched the video of what you're being accused of. It is all over every damn social media site out there. And it is obvious to anyone that's not blind using a seeing eye dog that you physically assaulted an ICE agent. We watched it with our own eyes. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem weighed in on the charge against her, saying no one is above the law except for Democrats prior to now, with the new sheriff in town. If any person, regardless of political party, influence, or status, assaults a law enforcement officer, as we witness Congresswoman McLever do, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, the secretary said. We thank our brave ICE law enforcement officers for their service to this great nation. Congresswoman McLever must turn herself in as soon as possible, though it is up to the magistrate on the specifics of when she must turn herself in and how. But imagine if you or I did what she did that's seen on the video. We would have been put in handcuffs and thrown in a police car in a jail cell immediately. Am I wrong? Prosecutors also said that McLever faces several felony charges on top of that, so she's looking at possible prison time. They also announced that after extensive coordination and consideration, that they were dismissing the charges against New York Mayor Ross Baraka. That'd be that piece of shit, who was originally charged that day with trespassing at the facility. And he had his first court appearance last Thursday, which Hava personally attended. He said, outside the courtroom, we believe that I was targeted in this. Then yesterday, he released a statement about the charges against him being dismissed, saying, I'm glad that the U.S. Attorney has agreed that this case should be dismissed. I've had strong relationships with prior U.S. attorneys, and I plan to speak with the current U.S. Attorney about this issue on which we can cooperate. As to Delaney Hall, I will continue to advocate for the humane treatment of detainees, and I will continue to press the facility to ensure that it is compliant with City of Newark codes and regulations. He went on to say, I understand that the U.S. Attorney has chosen to charge Congresswoman LaMonica McLever with assaulting law enforcement. Congresswoman McLever is the daughter of Newark, past New York Council President, a former student of mine, and a dear friend. I want to be clear, I stand with her, and I fully expect her to be vindicated. Also said 3 other Congress people were there. Robert Menendez Jr. and Bonnie Watson Coleman were outside the ICE facility last week with a group of protesters when the gates opened to allow an ICE bus in. And then they stormed through the gate. All 4 officials rushed through the gate past security. If this was a typical U.S. citizen and they tried to storm into a detention facility that's housing dangerous criminals or any person at all, they'd be arrested immediately Department of Homeland Secretary, Assistant Secretary Teresa McLaughlin said, just because you're a member of Congress or just because you're a public official doesn't mean you're above the law. However, McLever and others allege that ICE created chaos and instigated the situation. The way we were treated at Delaney Hall is almost unbelievable. ICE shoved me, manhandled me, and my co-workers. They disrespected us and tried to stop us from conducting the oversight we're elected to do. But we'll never back down in our fight for what is right, she posted on X. The rest came as activists have been calling for access to facilities that house illegal criminal aliens that have raped, murdered, drug traffickers, and so forth, human traffickers of women and children. The Democrat Party in Washington, D.C. is siding with the criminals, the worst of the worst in our society, over you, the American public. And the sooner that normal Democrats wake the fuck up and realize this and go, I'm done with this party, the better off we will be. Because those up in Washington, D.C. on the Democrat and the House and the Senate continue to just double down on stupidity. That's why they lost this last election, for crying out loud. Overwhelmingly, the people said, we've watched the lies. We've seen the tapes. We've seen the transcripts. We've watched the testifying in front of Congress. We've witnessed it all. Everything from the Russia collusion hoax to covering up Joe Biden's mental health to the document case. Remember that? We can't prosecute Joe Biden for taking documents out of the White House that he wasn't allowed to take as vice president because he's not mentally fit to be president. But yet he's mentally fit to continue in office. No jury would prosecute this old, feeble man that has no memory. And now we've listened to the actual audio of that investigation of him when they interviewed him. He's all over the fucking place. It's all over social media. You can watch it if you haven't or listened to it. It's crazy. It's obvious that when the special prosecutor, when they interviewed him, he was not mentally there. Donald Trump did the same thing. Donald Trump took some documents he shouldn't have taken, although he claims he declassified them, which he had the right to do as president of the United States. And of course, he's not being charged with it. It was all dropped. It was all thrown out. It was all bullshit because, as we know now, they were declassified. It was all a dog and pony show, a smoke and mirrors thing that the liberals refused to accept. But they were going after Donald Trump for the same thing they were going to let Joe Biden walk for. Remember that two-tier justice system we've talked about for quite some time? Yeah. Moving on. FBI Director Kash Patel hinted at a wave of transparency on the horizon as the agency struggles to rebuild public trust, especially in the wake of longstanding controversy over alleged polarization and selective prosecution. Sitting alongside FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino for a Sunday Morning Futures interview, Patel pointed to the FBI's handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation as an example of political bias and institutional failure. He claimed senior officials within the Department of Justice hijacked their constitutional responsibility by selectively deciding which cases to prosecute. Basically, if a Republican did something wrong, throw the book at them. If a Democrat did something wrong, hide it. Don't throw the book at them. Let them get away with it. You asked in the beginning how the FBI was weaponized. He said to the host, well, the FBI hijacked the constitutional responsibility of the Department of Justice and the Attorney General. And James Comey and others specifically decided what cases to prosecute and what cases not to prosecute on political lines. Don't believe me? Go to the videotape in the Hillary Clinton investigation, which, I played right here on this show for you all to listen to, where James Comey comes out and tells the public that Hillary Clinton is guiltier than the devil, but isn't going to prosecute her. We don't decide prosecutions, and neither does any agent or intel analyst. We have great partners under Attorney General Pam Bondi. We work with them and discuss the matter with them, but the prosecutional decision is with them, not the FBI director. Patel said that the new agency leadership has uncovered additional details regarding the Crossfire Hurricane investigation into President Donald Trump's alleged ties to Russia and working with Congress to put out information surrounding the episode. That's how vindictive and vicious the former leadership structure here was. Not only did they bastardize the FISA process and lied to the American public, they withheld and hid documentation and put it in rooms where people weren't supposed to look, Patel said. But now they found them, now that the new sheriff's in town. It's a good thing that we're here now to clean up this mess. And you're about to see a wave of transparency. Just give us about a week or two, and we're going to release it all to the American people, what we're finding of how crooked James Comey was. Patel and Bongino, wide-ranging interview centered on investments in Homeland Security, alleged corruption among past agency leadership and restoring public trust in the institution, and a pointed critique. Patel accused the FBI predecessors of intentionally failing the American people by putting on what he called the biggest DC deception game ever seen. He claimed the Bureau's reputation as a law enforcement agency was damaged by the lies of the leadership of James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and accused them of weaponizing the FBI for political purposes, misleading both the courts and the American people. They said the FBI was the most storied institution for law enforcement, and it was. And it will be again very soon. Patel vowed, tossing in an allegation that the former leadership used taxpayer funds, potentially illegally, to run their operation and withheld key evidence from the FISA courts. That's what broke the FBI. And then, when they were caught, lied about it. And few media personalities were brave enough to cover it 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we're still talking about it today because Congress is working religiously, righteously with us. And the Crossfire Hurricane documents are coming fast and hard. And they're being sent. They're being unredacted. So we have full accountability. And the DC Democrats are shaking in their damn boots because of it. That's how you restore the trust that we lost to the American public when it comes to the FBI, Patel said. And add insult to injury, former FBI Director James Comey was just strolling along the beach recently and posted a picture on his X account of something he saw in the sand. some seashells that were formed that said 8647, which basically stands for kill the president of the United States, the 47th president. 86 stands for killing you, doing away with you. Yet, after being called out on this claim, he had no clue what 86 meant. This is a career law enforcement official who became the director of the FBI, staring into a camera yesterday at MSNBC saying, I didn't know what 86 meant. I didn't know what it was. Just some seashells arranged that. I thought, oh, look at this unique picture look at this unique seashell thing I found on the beach. Clueless. Had no idea. Didn't know. Before I even became a law enforcement officer. Hell, growing up in junior high school, we knew what 86 and somebody meant, for crying out loud. And you want to tell me that a career law enforcement officer who was director of the FBI, James Comey, didn't know that 8647 meant kill the president of the United States, the 47th president? Get the fuck out of here, James Comey. And why you're not in handcuffs and arrested tonight is fucking beyond me. Because if I did this, or you did this, American patriots, you bet your ass they would arrest you. And this son of a bitch has the fucking nerve to go on NBC, MSNBC. He won't do it on Fox or any other channel for that matter. Not any conservative news media, because they will tell him flat to his face, you're a fucking liar, that he didn't know what 8647 meant. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And finishing up tonight, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is instructing the Pentagon to launch a comprehensive review into the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. Thank God. In 2021, then President Joe Biden withdrew U.S. troops from Afghanistan, following up on an existing plan that was already put in place by, at that time, former Trump administration in 2020, the Taliban leaders to end the war in the region. Although had Trump been reelected, he had a plan for the withdrawal that would take a period of time, and we would get all our equipment out of there, and we get people out safely, and we get the American citizens out. We do all this shit over a period of time, not in a week. Biden faced scrutiny over the withdrawal as the Taliban quickly took over Afghanistan, and more than a dozen U.S. service members died supporting that mission. 13 U.S. service members were killed during the withdrawal process due to a suicide bombing at Abbey Gate outside the then Hamad Karzai International Airport as the Taliban quickly seized control of Kabul. The Department of Defense has an obligation both to the American people and to the warfighters who sacrificed their youth in Afghanistan to get to the facts, the Secretary of Defense said. This remains an important step towards regaining faith and trust in the American people and all those who wear the uniform, and is prudent based on the number of casualties and equipment lost during the execution of the withdrawal. The Defense Secretary said the Pentagon has already completed a review of the catastrophe withdrawal and concluded that a full investigation is necessary to provide a complete picture of the event and to hold those responsible accountable. Something I've been calling for a long damn time. And matter of fact, all my brothers and sisters that served in Afghanistan, let me back up a second. Members of our military that served in Afghanistan that survived the fucking war committed suicide after this fucking withdrawal that went to shit. Because it was obvious that the Biden administration didn't give a flying fuck about what they served for, what they fought for, and what their brothers and sisters died for, and what they were injured for. As a result, Secretary said he's directing Pentagon spokesperson Sean Purnell to spearhead a special review panel to evaluate provisions, investigate, to analyze the decision-making that led to one of America's darkest and deadliest international moments. This team will ensure accountability to the American people and the war fighters of our great nation, he said. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this mess, maybe you're young, maybe you just tuned in. On August 26, 2021, an ISIS-K suicide bomber who the Taliban had released earlier that month detonated his body-worn IED at the Abbey Gate outside the Kabul airport. In addition to 13 U.S. service members who were killed, approximately 170 Afghan civilians were also blown up and killed. The Biden administration's White House released a report in 2023 evaluating the withdrawal mess, which stated that top intelligence officials are to blame for not accurately assessing how quickly the Taliban would take control of Kabul. The House Foreign Affairs Committee conducted their own investigation into the withdrawal, and the U.S. military produced at least 2 reports on the matter. The Biden administration prioritized the optics of the withdrawal over the security of U.S. personnel on the ground, according to House Foreign Affairs Committee report. I've read the report. I've read the report right here on this show. It's damning what they did. For that reason, they failed to plan for all problems that might occur, including a non-combatant evacuation operation, and refused to order an NDO until after the Taliban had already entered Kabul. In the report, it says. Additionally, the report said the failure to accurately establish evacuation plans led to an unsafe environment at the airport that put the lives of service members and State Department officials at risk. In February, Trump told reporters that he would instruct the Secretary of Defense on the actions the Pentagon should take when asked if he was considering firing military leaders who were part of this withdrawal. Trump said, yes, fire every single damn one of them. The commander of U.S. Central Command in 2021, now retired Marine General Keith F. McKenzie Jr., just last year took full ownership of the loss of U.S. troops that day. I, the overall commander, and I alone bear full responsibility for what happened at Abbey Gate, McKenzie told the House Foreign Affairs Committee in March of 2024. Now, retired Army General Mark Milley, another piece of shit, the former chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told lawmakers at the time, the same hearing, that he believed the evacuation should have occurred sooner and that multiple factors contributed to failures in the withdrawal. Both McKenzie and Milley testified to lawmakers in front of Congress under oath that they advised Joe Biden personally in a briefing to keep U.S. troops in Afghanistan after this pullout and to do things differently. We can't just rush in there and pull everybody out in a matter of a couple of days. It's going to take months to make this happen safely. They testified that they told Joe Biden this. Biden rejected their advice. The outcome in Afghanistan was a result of many decisions for many years of war, Milley told lawmakers. Like any complex phenomenon, there was no single causal factor that determined the outcome, he said. Then, if that was not bad enough, Joe Biden, in his rush to get the military out, did not give time for the military to take the equipment out, the planes, the helicopters, weapons of many types, from small arms to assault weapons, ammunition, food, water, medical supplies. Altogether, billions of dollars worth of military equipment. And it fell into the hands of the enemy. And what did the Biden administration come out and tell us? That the military was instructed to destroy it all in place. And what did the service members that were in charge of destroying that equipment come out and testify in front of Congress? Don't take my word for it. Watch it. It's all over YouTube. It's all on every social media platform out there. You can watch that testimony. You can watch them testify in front of Congress. There was no time to destroy it all. Yes, they were able to destroy a few things, but Joe Biden was demanding, get the fuck out of there. Get out. Just leave it behind. And so they did. They followed the order of the commander-in-chief. Just fucking abandon it. Let the enemy have it. Which will be used again to kill American forces. That, my friends, is treason 101. Aiding and abetting the enemy. I've said that many times right here on this program and in separate videos. That Joe Biden is guilty of treason for that, the way that withdrawal was handled, leaving to our enemy, the Taliban, billions of dollars of military equipment and money. As we now are finding out, he was paying them millions and millions of dollars to build up their country again. None of it's going to build up their country. All the women and girls that were free to go to school and get driver's license and become productive members of society are back wearing burqas and not allowed an education. Islamic rule is taken over. It's back to the way it was before 9/11. Bunch of people living in fucking caves. Women and children, the girls, are abused and beaten and have no voice now. And the Taliban was using all that money to just keep buying military equipment and fixing military equipment and are building up another massive military force. They have the largest military force right now in the Middle East with uncivilized Middle Easterners than anyone else. Maybe this is why all of a sudden we learn that Joe Biden is dying of cancer, so that he won't be charged with treason along with the military leaders that will be. And he was the top man, the commander-in-chief of our military. And he let us down. That will go down in history, just like the withdrawal from the Vietnam War, where we just pulled the fuck out. And all the people, the South Vietnamese, that supported U.S. military operations against the North Vietnamese were left behind to die at the hands of the North Vietnamese as they rolled in. And we just let them fucking die. If you know a Vietnam vet, ask them how they felt about the withdrawal from Vietnam. And I guarantee you they're going to tell you exactly what I'm fixing to tell you, that the veterans in Afghanistan will tell you too, that our country failed them, that they actually got injured and their brothers and sisters died for no gain. For what? For what? What was all this for? Years and years of war to just turn around and just give it to the fucking enemy. And that's what happened. And that's the facts. No matter what you hear by liberal pundits on YouTube or any other social media platform out there. If you're a fucking liberal out there on YouTube, I don't give a shit if you got 5 followers or you got 2 million followers. And you want to debate me on Joe Biden as commander-in-chief of the military, contact me. You know how to do it. DouglasDucote.com. I'll bring you on this show to talk about it. I'm a fucking 4-time combat veteran, and I'll smoke your fucking ass. All the lies that's being told out there, especially on YouTube, by people that supposedly know shit, that never served a day in their life in the military. And other liberals that are soaking that shit up as if it's the fucking gospel because that person just so happens to have 1.2 or 2 million followers believe the crap coming out of their mouth? No, sir. No, ma'am. I'm disgusted by what the Biden administration did to our military and our veterans. And I will never, ever forget that. As always, you had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me. And for that, my friends, I am forever grateful. I thank you very, very much. If you haven't already done so, whether you're watching me tonight on YouTube or Rumble or X, formerly Twitter or LinkedIn, please subscribe to the show. Tell your friends and family about the show. Share my videos. Share my live broadcast after it goes up, after the show ends here in a few minutes, which we're already 10 minutes over. And let them know if they have little ones in their room that Mr. Doug every now and then says a bad word or two. So they might want to just turn the volume down or wear headsets or make sure the little ones aren't in the room when you're listening to the show. A word or two, a bad word or two. Yeah, well, Mr. Doug sometimes says 20 or 30 bad words. But anyhow, thank you for being here with me tonight. I'll be back on Thursday for another live broadcast of the show. Hope you will join me. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, all their families. They serve too. Our Blue and Gold Star families, our Angel families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America, and may God bless each and every one of you. If something breaks of major importance between now and Thursday, I will either come live or I will do a video about it. Other than that, hope you all have a wonderful and blessed rest of your evening. Happy hump day tomorrow, and I will see you back here on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Good night, my friends.